Hi, I'm Ann Siggard. I have Ann Siggard's Cookbook on an app at the App Store if you're interested in learning more about this recipe and many others that I'm planning to show you soon. Today we're going to be making homemade eclairs, and most people go, oh no, that sounds too hard to do. But actually eclairs are fairly easy to make, at least my recipe is. So I want to show you today how to make your own homemade eclairs. I've been doing weddings for years, and I would say eclairs are probably the number 1 or 2 item on the dessert buffet that everyone loves the most. So I think this is a fun project to do for your family if they enjoy having something like a homemade eclair. Okay, the first thing I have done today is I have gone ahead and preheated my oven to 400 degrees. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 cup of water into a large saucepan. And I'm going to put in a cube of butter. And I'm going to bring this to a boil. It has to be a rolling boil before we do the next step. Okay. Before we start the eclairs, I'm going to make the whipped cream that will go into the filling. And I'm going to use 1 cup of whipping cream. So if you come over here, you'll see I have 1 cup of whipping cream. I'm going to whip it now. And to 1 cup of whipping cream, I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of powdered sugar. Okay, we have a picture now of our water and our butter in a rolling boil. We want to add just a little pinch of salt as well. And then we're going to add the 1 cup of flour while it's still going. And you can see, I can turn this down just a little bit now because it's already boiling. And I'm adding the flour in here. With a wooden spoon, I'm using this to try to, I want to have this go into a ball. You want to make sure all the flour is incorporated well. And this is basically what you're making is a puff pastry. You're making a puff pastry with this. And it will be the eggs that we add in just a few minutes that is going to make this a very beautiful puffy pastry that will have a wonderful filling and topping for the eclairs. As you can see, the pan looks, everything is pulled away from the pan, and the pan looks fairly clean. And the mixture is smooth, kind of like into a ball. Okay, we're going to take this, we'll turn the stove completely off now. We're going to take it over and we're going to put it into our KitchenAid mixer. If you don't have a KitchenAid mixer, look how the pan is totally clean now. If you don't have a KitchenAid mixer, a hand mixer will work just as well. I used to make these by hand, but I have found the mixer works much better, a much higher quality than just doing it by hand. At this point, I have 4 eggs that are room temperature, and I'm going to put my paddle attachment on. Okay, and this is very hot in here. I'm going to add 1 egg at a time, and I'm going to incorporate it into the flour and butter and water mixture. I'm going to keep this at about medium speed until the egg is incorporated, and I'm going to add egg number 2. I made it just a little bit faster. I'm adding egg number 3. Now I will add egg number 4. So it has a total of 4 eggs. And that's incorporated pretty well. I'm going to put this on a higher speed. We're making a very smooth, shiny, thick mixture at this point. It only takes a minute or 2. Pastry mixture. Now we're going to get ready and we're going to put this on our jelly roll pan or our half sheet pan. It doesn't need to be greased or prepped in any way. You're going to add this directly on here. And depending on how big you want your eclairs to be, some people just want little itty bitty ones, and some people like big ones like about this size. I kind of like the bigger ones because nobody can ever eat just one anyway. So depending on how many people you want to feed, you can decide how large your eclairs are going to be. But I usually try to put about a 1/4 cup, and I put it on the sheet like this. And then I take it and I make it into an eclair type sized dough. So that's going to be our first one. You want to have it look a little bit oblong, like an eclair is supposed to look. If you were doing a cream puff, you would just add a little bit, just put it right on the pan in a glob. But right now we're trying to make it into an eclair shape. Okay, the pastry is on the sheet pan and they're ready to go in the oven. I was able to make 12. You can make anywhere from 9 to 12 on your pan, depending on how large you like them, but we're making 12 eclairs today. So I'm going to bake these. This is very important. I'm going to bake these at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to turn the heat down and put them at 350 degrees for 10 more minutes, for a total of 30 minutes. So once again, 400 degrees for 20 minutes, 350 degrees for 10 minutes. Do not open the oven. You don't want to flatten them out, so you want to make sure that they rise properly. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the oven, and we'll turn the heat down in 20 minutes. I'm using a convection oven.
I just stopped.
Okay, that's fine. While the eclairs are baking in the oven, we want to make our filling that will go inside. So I just use regular instant Jell-O vanilla pudding, and that's what makes it so good, and it's easy. You don't have to make your own pudding. I've already made the whipping cream, which will go incorporated into the pudding when it's chilled, and the whipping cream is made out of regular homemade whipping cream. You want to whip that up and put in a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar and a little bit of vanilla. And that's already been prepared to incorporate into our filling. So this is the simple part. You just follow the direction in the app. You have 2 cups of water. Excuse me, not 2 cups of water. 2 cups of milk. I use whole milk because you want it to taste very creamy. 2 cups of whole milk. I've already measured out a cup, or just about a cup. That's what this. If you get the 6.5 ounce box, the large box of pudding, it's almost a cup. So that is close enough, but I usually tell you in the recipe 1 cup of pudding. So I'm going to add that in here. Then come closer and you can see that I'm going to beat this with a wire whisk. I'm going to place this in the refrigerator for 15 minutes. And then I'm going to add the whipped cream to incorporate into this mixture. Okay, we're back. We've taken the eclairs out of the oven. As you can see, they've puffed up very nicely and they're a nice light golden brown. Now what we're going to do, when you take them out of the oven and they start to cool a little bit, you want to take a little spatula or a little tool like this, and you want to go right underneath every single eclair to make sure it may be sticking to the bottom a little bit, and you need to loosen it from the bottom of the pan like I've done here. So this is how you do that, okay? When that's finished, you want to start cutting the eclair tops so that you can put the filling in. And it's gonna look a lot like this. I've already cut a few, but basically you're gonna take the knife from the edge and go all the way around, and you're not gonna cut it all the way through. You're gonna leave it open like this so that you can put the filling in. Okay. You know, we've already put in the refrigerator our vanilla pudding that's all nice and thickened, and we've already made our whipped cream made out of powdered sugar and a little bit of vanilla. So now we're going to combine these together. And we're just going to fold it in carefully. And this is going to be a thick filling because we did not put as much milk in as you would normally put in for a regular pudding, which might be a little less thick than this, but you want to have it thick so it stands up well in your eclair. Okay, you can see we have a lot of whipped cream going into the vanilla pudding, but that is what's going to make it very creamy and very delicious. You don't want to beat this, you only want to fold in like I'm doing with the spatula, so that it's incorporated nicely but very loosely. Okay, now when that's done, you're going to take a little tablespoon like this and you're going to generously fill each one of the eclairs. Not just a little bit, but you want a nice big filling in each one. Okay, let me show you how that will look. Okay, you can start. Hi, we're back and we're going to make the ganache topping that goes on the eclairs. Usually I have chocolate chips on hand and that would work well for you, but I just happen to have some dark chocolate wafer. This is a melting chocolate. It's very high quality. It will be very good to make your topping with. If you happen to have chocolate wafers, they melt very well in cream. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to turn our stove on. We're going to add 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. And we want to keep this stove on low because whenever you're melting chocolate, you want it on a very low temperature so that it does not burn. We are going to add the dark chocolate wafers and a tablespoon of butter. And we'll be back in just a moment. You'll see how it looks when it's all melted and ready to put on the eclairs. It's all ready to go. So this is the finished product. Enjoy with your family.